Virgos are
No one wants to see her stressed.
Why is she even on this list? No one cares about her.
I care about her.
Welcome back to Can You Not? We have all three of us reunited once again to give you some more great topics. This time we're actually switching it up a little bit. We're trying a little bit of a different format, very similar, but we thought we'd start with a person just giving one topic ahead of time and having each person do a break off of each.
Like a theme.
Topic. Yeah. So the theme we have for today that we're trying out is video games, which is the one I chose, which none of us are really gamers, so it'll be really interesting to see how that goes.
Unless it's WWE.
But before we start, I'd like to mention that we did get one comment from a Mr. OG Bobby Johnson.
Why did I know?
It was from our episode on the Alien Zoo, and he mentioned the Twilight Zone episode, People Are Alike All Over, in which there's a human zoo.
So, there we go.
Yep.
I wonder
check it
how
out.
long he had to sit and look to find the title of the episode he was thinking of. I know what's in it, just what's the name?
He said like human zoo, Twilight Zone.
Search history's probably hilarious.
Oh my God. Does your family have like a family computer?
No.
Okay, they're all laptops.
Yeah, my dad has a PC and my mom has a laptop.
I'm just picturing a family computer with the most bizarre browser
Searches.
history.
Why were you looking up Human Zoo Twilight Zone? Don't worry about it.
There's a great article on Slate.com, and it's discussing how video games can teach your brain how to fight depression. And basically, playing purposeful games with strategies or an end goal gives your brain the added reinforcement against depression. And it gives you hyperactivity within the hippocampus and other reward sectors. And it discusses how video games are getting a bad rap because they're doing this like fallacy of logic between, you're sitting there and you're doing nothing and you get depression. But really it's the people that go into these video games with a self-medicating kind of way to escape reality, then they're just going to get into more depression.
So it's people are misplacing the cause and the effect?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And they go into detail about it and how like games such as
Grand Theft Auto.
You're the worst. like Minecraft, Portal, Words with Friends.
Oh yeah.
And even Call of Duty, they all teach goal orientation and also resilience because they're strategy based as well. So you have to keep fighting back and you have to keep going forward in these goals. And a lot of people, when they observed this, or studies in the past, when they saw that these people could not stop playing it because they couldn't finish the goal, they saw it as a negative, but researchers now are looking at it as a positive.
Interesting.
Because it's that hyperactivity in the brain and the fact that you're more goal-oriented.
Like even though you lose once or twice or 1,000 times.
It teaches resilience
Yeah.
in comparison to those that actually don't play video games. And now the United States has 155 million people that say they play at least one game a year, I believe. So that's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And now that you have mobile games, I think it's even expanding bigger than just a traditional console of Xbox, PS, and Nintendo.
Everyone's played Angry Birds at some point.
They even talk about Angry Birds in this. Or Candy Crush, or other games, or
Amber's
Bejeweled.
shaking her head no.
I'm video game illiterate. But I think that's interesting. I've always thought it was kind of ridiculous and sort of a panic reaction when people say that video games cause all these horrible things in people. There are downsides, like sitting around for a really long time isn't good for you. And, you know, you always see the people who, like, do nothing except sit and play Candy Crush on their phone, like, all day. Like, I think that's negative. But doing something that you enjoy isn't necessarily bad. And especially since I've always considered video games just a different way to tell a story. I mean, not all of them are, but a lot of them, I really wish that my brain could do video games better, because I think that the ability to tell a story in a video game gives you so many different, like, extra things. Like, little hints and Easter eggs and stuff that you can't get in a book or in a song.
Right. I think the interesting thing about it, I really like your point about I like the whole idea of it curing, because like depression is innately kind of a state where you really feel like you're not doing anything. You really don't have motivation. You don't have any interest. And so I think the idea that even if it's something as simple as, I don't know, like Mario Kart or something like that, at least you're doing something. You're putting forth effort to accomplish something. And if that's something in the form of a game, I think that's awesome. So I guess another unusual use of video games that I've heard of before is how they will have old people have, like in retirement communities, will have like Wii bowling and stuff like that. And they say like it gets them up and active, you know, to be able to stand up and like, again, they're not doing much, but they're like moving their arm, they're getting up and down, you know.
Yeah.
They're being mentally engaged in some way. You know?
I'm sure that's actually probably something that's really, really positive because, I don't know, I feel like there's not a whole lot going on in nursing homes. So at least doing something, especially since a lot of old people can't lift a bowling ball, you know, like being able to, I'm not really joking,
yeah,
like,
that's true.
But yeah, that's
Absolutely.
another thing. But
Then I think about even just like the Xbox like Kinect thing that they had where it motion tracks your whole body, and how people have been like taking that technology and basically utilizing it and gutting it and using that technology to make other things. Because to get these Kinect things is like a couple $100. If you're going to try to make your own like motion tracking technology of your own, it might cost like thousands.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that people are manipulating, and I think they Microsoft, if I remember correctly, even encouraged it. Like they literally gave out like a kit that said, hey, do what you want with this technology.
that's really cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think, just circling back to the depression thing. I don't know. I think it's an interesting pros and cons, because I definitely think there are lots of pros to video games that like the media and everything has been ignoring for a really long time, because everybody was so focused on the video games causes violence thing for such a long time that nobody was thinking about much else. But I'm wondering if like where the balance is between like, okay, you're giving your brain the pathways to problem solve and to persevere, but you're also sitting and not doing
Right.
worldly things. So I'm wondering if that gives and
Everything
takes.
in moderation, right?
The article addresses escapism, which I was kind of slightly discussing about, and it's people that at least have somewhat social skills and a social life. Even if they spend extended hours playing these video games, they do not have issues. It's those that maybe are in the social world a ton, but they don't use coping skills to deal with their issues, so they use video games as an escape. Mm-hmm. So it goes into detail with that. I feel like, at least in the late 90s and early 2000s, they were using video games to make a reason, or they were using it as a scapegoat for like school shootings and other things, but not addressing the serious issues that people were having, lack of social coping or social skills, and it's a fallacy in the argument.
And I feel like that's another cause and effect confusion. Like people
Exactly.
say, well, video games are happening, so now people are more violent, so now they're shooting people, instead of, well, something's happening that's causing people to go inward, like that are and going inward means you sit and not necessarily, but it could mean that you sit and play video games with your time instead of going out and trying to meet people or be with your friends. And then that could also translate into like the terrible like downfall of depression and what have you that cause people to think that shooting up a school is the way to go.
What I think is interesting too is with all the people who still criticize video games and how they're these newfangled destruction machines, like we've had video games for several generations now. Like we've had them since like in their current form in a sense since like the late 70s, early 80s. So is it really this brand new thing that's out to destroy the youth? Well, our parents have already grown up with them essentially.
But so I feel like this has a lot of similarities with hip hop and expression.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like certain groups and certain people use it. They use it as a scapegoat, just like how they've been using video games for the longest time. For like, oh, this is violence. This is like the perpetuation of stereotypes or the perpetuation of violence. And I'm thinking about it, and it's kind of bizarre that people see art this way. Because I think video games are art and hip hop is art, and they both tell stories and they're both drastically different, but they have a lot of similarities. And I don't think the critics are really looking at like the practices of it and how it actually could be a positive. Because we kind of look at like, okay, here's the message, but we don't look at how people going into it receive the message. You know what I mean? Like these people that have no social skills and are already depressed and already suicidal go into the video games that way.
Yeah, it's not. They don't go into video games, then all of a sudden they're sick. Like, you know what I mean? Like people.
And hip hop's been around since like the early mid '80s too. So like that's another thing that like it's not like this brand new thing. Like it's been around since, again, some of our parents may have like grown up with it. So it's like.
I feel like part of it might just be that it got like video games, like everything else, like since like in this century have just they accelerated. They were there and we had 8-bit, and then all of a sudden like it jumped forward and now we have these incredibly graphic things, and I think that freaks them out a little bit, just the speed with which that they're growing and that people have interest, and people freak out when they don't understand things. So
yeah, and to be able to see a growth from like, I guess I can see where there's more of a connect between like a blurry little pixelated image of a spacecraft that you're blowing up as opposed to like seeing like what appears to look a lot like a human face or something like that when you're. And so I can see why they're paranoid, like.
But people like, I feel like a lot of the same people who get really upset about this are the people who will sit and watch Netflix for 12 hours. It's exactly the same thing. You're getting engulfed in a story. It's just you're interacting with one and you're not interacting with the other one.
Right. I was thinking about the idea of video games being art, because I know this has been a controversial statement. One person that stirred up a big storm of it was Roger Ebert, the late movie critic. And I love a lot of his opinions when it comes to movie criticism, but he caught a lot of flack when one time he said that he did not believe that video games were art. He thought that they could be worthy of critical evaluation. He thought that they had artistic elements to it. He thought that they were like clever creations in their own right, but he essentially did not feel that video games were art. He thinks that, I don't know, he felt like art was more of a singular thing. He felt that it was more about reaching to a more specified audience. I don't buy the argument, honestly. I think there's so much work that goes, just like making a film. You have people who are designing the backgrounds, people who are creating the characters, people who are creating a story. And I know like another one of his arguments was like, name one video game that's on the same level as like the great literature of the past or the great films of the past and stuff like that. And I'm not even a gamer, and I know of people defending certain games as brilliant works of art. Like
I'm not a gamer and I can think of a game off the top of my head, and I know the plot of the game because they turned the game into a show, but it's phenomenally complex and it's really cool. It's Steins Gate. It's an anime.
I've heard of it.
I recommend it. It's really cool. I've never played the visual novel, but it looks really cool. And Dot Hack is another anime that was a video game. I think it might have been several. I'm not super literate in this, but
even something like Portal or something like that. And how creative and how.
And Portal makes you feel things. Like when you're playing Portal, you don't just sit and zombie out. Like Portal is intense. I know people who said
like they've played Final Fantasy and have like cried while playing because there's like
Final Fantasy is awesome. I've only played a couple of them, but
I've also heard Mass Effect is really big and huge. Like every interaction you have can affect how the story ends. Like something you did at the beginning of the game affects the outcome.
What was that?
The last Silent Hill video game was like that.
That was Bryce, by the way.
It's super psychological. The very last Silent Hill video game is like every decision you make is based off of a fear profile that's completely custom to you.
Oh my god.
Every time you play, it's
that's scary.
Amazing.
No, thank you. That sounds horrifying. But I'm more of a Flash game person because I don't have focus for video games, and I've even played Flash games that maybe they're not as faceted. Well, maybe they are not as faceted as these huge, like, very detailed games.
Yeah.
But they are still very philosophical and incredibly bizarre to play.
Yeah.
And the people who had to come up with these, they are works of art because it's almost. There's a game called Loved. And it's just a pixel game. You're just a guy running around. But the first thing it says is, are you a boy or are you a girl? And you answer, and I put girl, and it said, no, you're a boy. And as you're playing, it keeps asking you questions and telling you to do things. And the more that you disobey this little voice that's telling you things, the more the universe starts to fall apart. And it's just this really
That's cool.
Crazy game. There's another game called Immortal. It's Immortal. That's another one. It's about war, and it's this very simple game, but it's very visually. It's all done in silhouettes, but it is just this heart-wrenching game that takes about 5 minutes to play. And just because you can interact with it doesn't mean it's not art.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I mean, with my video game pass, I don't have a lot actually that I can just search from and like state. I really do like the Kingdom Hearts franchise. I can't wait for the third one to come out. I will buy a PS4 just for that. And they come from the same creator as Final Fantasy, and they have a lot of Final Fantasy characters that come in and out of the storylines. And it's awesome. Like Kingdom Hearts 2 had this great storyline where it's the perception of the main character in an alternate universe and how he is like a nobody in a memory, and how they face each other and like what is real and what is not, and it gave me feels. I don't know why, it just did. Because it's kind of sad to think that this alternate universe like character that you played with through a quarter or a third of the game will never exist in the storyline, and it's kind of sad. I don't know, because you build a rapport with the character. So you definitely feel things when you play video games. And then I play a bunch of wrestling games just because I like wrestling.
I would say even like I didn't have like really too many consoles. Like we had like a Wii later on, and I had like a Game Boy. But I would play like some games on the PC. Like I'd get stuff from like the library and stuff like that. Like literally, like not anything like badass or anything like that. But I like some of those games I played. Like I could literally like imagine the entire world. Like some of those worlds that like you're involved in for these games feel more real to me than places I've actually visited, because when you spend so much time there and you know every like nook and cranny of these imaginary worlds, they do kind of become real to you, I think. And
that's why it irritates me when people say that video games aren't an art form, because people have the same investment in characters in TV shows. People have the same, like, oh my god, the people who know Harry Potter inside, outside, all over the place. Like, they know where everything is. They could probably draw you a map of, like, Magic Britain. Like, I feel like it's the same thing, because it's just because you can interact with it. Like, they give you goals and they give you levels, and that requires a different kind of thinking, I think, than just creating characters and creating the art that goes with them. But you still get invested in something. And as you get to know characters, the same as when you read a book, the same as when you watch a TV show, the same as when you're playing through levels with characters, you get invested in them, and that's why it makes you feel ways.
And I don't buy the whole thing about, like, well, it's not like a singular vision. Well, in most cases, movies aren't. They're like amalgamations of lots of other people's things. Not to mention the fact that, like, there are some games that are helmed by one creative head who controls, like, the big main decisions involved.
And like theater isn't like, as soon as you say, well, it's not one person, theater takes technicians, takes actors.
I think the argument would be like, it's still like a playwright who's like coming up with this one story.
But that's the same thing though. There's somebody who has an overarching.
I don't like this whole comparison argument of it's not like English literature masterpiece. Like, how can you compare a video game to that? They're not the same thing.
The same thing, like,
at all.
Even if you compare, like, are one of the greatest pop songs ever comparable to one of the greatest, like, classical compositions ever?
No.
They're two different mediums. Of course they're not going to be similar, and of course they're not going to have the same merits.
And where were you ever going to find somebody who's able to objectively compare them?
Right.
Like, who is going to know enough about hip-hop and enough about classical music to be able to put one in one hand and the other in the other and go, like, I don't...
I mean, sure there are people, but it's like...
maybe. I mean, well, yeah, probably, but it's just, I don't know.
Anthony Fantano probably knows a lot of it.
Shouts out to the needle drop.
It'd be amazing if he had somehow randomly heard this at the door.
He's not going to hear this.
Yeah, so I just think... Maybe he was reacting from kind of a gut instinct, because...
Maybe he was thinking of, like, Grand Theft Auto.
He was open-minded to people's arguments enough that he went to, like, a couple debate things or something about it. Like, people were, like, giving speeches, and he went to them and he considered them. but he still was very resolute. He said he grew to appreciate them more, but he still didn't consider them art.
I don't understand.
I mean, but that was the same way when hip hop started hitting pop status in the early 80s, mid 80s. They're like, this is a fad, it's not music, it'll go away eventually, and it has not gone away.
It's still here.
Back in the day, all the classical music people were probably like, this folk music isn't gonna last.
This lute.
Lute?
This trash.
Who plays lute?
I'm saying the Renaissance people were like...
I'm just like
Oh.
visualizing people
Oh my God.
in like a really dingy jazz club, and they're like 84, still like saying jazz was the most popular music of the 20th century, and it will always be.
Jazz is good. I like jazz too.
Jazz is great. Anyway.
Oh dear.
5, 4.
That was a very awkward
We were on a roll up until the end.
until you mentioned folk.
We were all on a wavelength, and then all of a sudden,
Folk.
And speaking of terrible segues, I'm going to talk about our sponsor
petty.
today,
I'm so petty. Sorry.
Audible.com. For you, the listeners of the Can You Not podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. I would recommend... I grew up and absolutely loved the series Unfortunate Events series by Lemony Snicket.
Yes.
And Tim
I'm on this
Curry
team.
does the narration, and it's magical. So go check that out, even if you're an adult.
So I'm actually reading a book I just picked up by Haruki Murakami, and it's called Colorist Sukuru Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage. It's really interesting. It's about a college-age kid. Basically, he's depressed a lot, and he feels this nothingness, and he feels colorless. And all of his friends that abandon him, in Japanese, their family name has a color in it, like red root or something. So it's red, blue, white is Shiro, and I think black is Kuro. I could be wrong, but I've only gotten into the first couple chapters, but it's a really good read, and I suggest you pick it up on audible.com.
Nice.
Give me 1 second. I don't know if the book I want to recommend is on Audible, so I need to check.
In the meantime, if you want to download your free audiobook today, you can go to audibletrial.com/canyouNot. There's no question mark at the end. Again, that's audibletrial.com/canyouNot for your free audiobook.
What books?
Diffie Q for
Ew, shut
idiots.
up.
DQ stats.
Stats.
Yes.
What?
Joe,
Diffie Q
quit
stats.
making math classes.
Diffie Q
I don't even want to
algebra
think
stats.
about that. Algebra's and everything.
Diffie Cuties for Bay.
I am so
Your guide to
so
dating a math major.
upset. Oh my god.
That was good.
Hold on, I need.
We're keeping that.
That's disgusting. You are all disgusting. So, my recommendation is an oldie but a goodie. It's one of my favorite books. It's The Time Machine by H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
It's not a very long book, but it is just, it's marvelous, and I enjoy it immensely.
Terrific. All right. You know what to do. Check it out. Support Audible. It supports us.
Yeah. A thing that I see a lot is people who are really mad because video games are sexist. Like, just the overarching. They don't like the way women are portrayed in video games in general. And the counter argument that I also often see is that when video game creators try and create things that do not have like TNA all over the place and don't have the over-sexualized women, it doesn't matter. Either the game sells worse or it sells the same, because the people who are upset about the boobs everywhere are not the people buying the video games.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about is whose responsibility it is to I don't know, should the game creators care if they're making feminists mad because they're making money and it's their job, you know, and as a job they want to make money, you know, capitalism, all that fun stuff? Or do you think it's their responsibility to take a step back and go, we're perpetuating something that's not healthy and it's not good, and we need to stop this even though it could make our sales worse?
I think if we're talking from a capitalism point of view, they should care, because women and young girls are an emerging market in everything consumerism. You know what I mean? They kind of drive sales.
And girls make up almost half of all gamers, so that's pretty big.
It's big, and if you want to keep that market growing, because I feel like women stop playing games after a certain point in comparison to men, it's because they don't have relatable characters, and the characters they see, it's just
Might be men.
what?
Are you saying they don't have relatable characters, but even the relatable characters are still male characters? Is that what you're saying, right?
Well, no, I'm saying the relatable characters they have are like, you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
The relatable characters that are there aren't so relatable because they have like crazy beauty standards, or they're just like completely not, they're not the main vocal point or the main character of the series, or they don't have powers that aren't related to their sexuality. You know what I mean?
It's just not when you have somebody who's starting to play video games and they're looking at this video game, women have or girls have less characters that they really grasp onto.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and I don't know, enjoy the character, I guess. I don't know.
And it's just the way that people of color feel with video games too. For the longest time, the black characters always get killed. It's just like in movies. It's just like in movies. It's just the same thing. Or like the only black characters we have are like long dreadlock, like Caribbean weird characters like in Tekken or something like that. Or like the ones that their power is bronze, but it's never their brains. Like it never is, because we're judged by our physicality. And it's the same with women. They're judged by their physicality in video games. So that's the issue that I think we're running into.
Or they're not
women.
even really. They're not even really characters. It's
No, they're
Princess
not.
Peach up in a tower. You know what I mean?
Yes, interesting.
You can't. What are you gonna do with that?
You can't even play the character really. In that
In at least in the original one.
In the original
yeah.
one.
I will say that Miss Pac-Man, which was even more successful than Pac-Man, was one of the most popular video games in the 1980s, and she was not sexualized. She didn't even have boobs.
But why was it more popular?
I'm just saying that there's no such thing as sexism in video games. It just doesn't exist, obviously.
Oh.
That was my one lone example. by the way.
Okay. Well.
I'll keep that in mind. If you've ever played Final Fantasy, the earlier ones, you'll exactly know what we're talking about.
I will say,
Or
what's
Mortal
pretty-
Kombat.
And
Have you seen the characters?
I think it's interesting that the video game that really actually made even any female games as main characters at all was Laura Croft, and that was
Tomb Raider.
Yeah. So, but even she, like you're saying, she's wearing skimpy clothing. She's very highly sexualized. I mean, she's at least a really cool character, but I feel like that's only the beginning. I feel like it should be taken a lot further.
And then the other thing that happened too was that thing that happened a while ago where
Gamergate.
the Gamersgate, where the chick in her butt did some things and people got really mad. But that was a pre-release. That was look at these things we're gonna have in our video game. And some people think that they did that because they knew people would be mad about the over-sexualization of the character. And then they pulled it back and said, you're right, we shouldn't do this. From my understanding.
From what I understand of Gamergate, it was a female reviewer who had reviewed a video game that her boyfriend had made. And she was really generous to it. And I think she got paid under the table or something like that. Supposedly it was actually a somewhat iffy situation, but the response to it is seen as such a, there were people who were responding in a very reasonable tone, but it was the misogynistic, sexist comments that got blown up. And of course, those are the ones that, fed on top of each other until everyone was just saying ridiculous, misogynistic stuff by the time it ended. And so it's just
because especially since this is kind of a hard conversation for me because I never had video games in my house as a kid. I don't know anything about it.
Did you play checkers?
It's not a video game.
That's a good one.
It's not a video game.
That's a fun game.
It's not a video game, Joe.
I love it.
Anyway.
I can get kinged. I can't do that in real life.
Especially within the cosplay world and stuff. I know a lot of female people, I don't know them personally, but just online you see a lot of female people don't so much mind at least dressing up as the characters. And I feel you can still have a in-depth character who is only wearing a bra, I guess, if you want. But
Otherwise, you're shaming the sexuality of the person.
Right, but I feel like it's this kind of give and take thing where I think there are too many bras where there should be armor kind of thing, like that sort of stuff going on.
But could it be argued that there's too many video game characters, the male characters, who are like not wearing shirts and like have enormous muscles and are setting a bad example in that sense?
I could say you have to remember, once again, like everything is defined by a masculine society.
And everything is also defined by a norm. And when you see somebody in full armor and you can't see any physicality of them, you assume they're male.
Right.
Exactly.
I know you do, and it's not anything against you. It's like I do that too. Like when you see somebody in full armor, they're a man, and
like
that's what the video games do.
Yeah.
That was like, wasn't there a stormtrooper in the new Star Wars who was a female, and everybody's really, really mad?
Well, it was a character named Captain Phasma, and she was like, everyone was like, wow, this character looks really cool. She has like full armor. It's not like super like, and literally she was in the movie for like 3 minutes.
Okay.
So like that was kind of like you had a chance to do something really cool.
Yeah.
Fans were excited without even knowing what this character was, and she's just gone. Like she got.
And I do really think a lot of it comes down to norms. Is if we had, like, you figure your standard person in military get up for some shoot 'em up game. If that standard also had females who were also within that standard, if you could look at somebody who is in camo and say that person could either be male or female, and then the video game reinforced that by making some of them male and some of them female, I wouldn't care so much about the characters who are wearing metal-plated boob holders. I don't know, but it's that there's this norm here, and a lot of the characters I see as a person who doesn't play video games, they are very, very, very scandalously dressed.
Go ahead.
And like just adding some sprinkles to that cake that she just delivered. I mean, the greatest thing about this conversation is, like, when we're talking about norms and like how things are decided and like how we perceive them, it's just like, think about even the most basic thing, like functionality in a video game. You're telling me a character that's supposed to be like a warrior princess, how is she supposed to be fighting in a swimsuit bikini?
Right.
No, like in high heels. Like really, like explain to me the functionality behind that. If you're a gamer, then you understand. Like,
and movies too, Jurassic World.
Oh, horrendous movie. We're not getting into that. But like, what is the functionality behind that? Because all the male characters have boots and like holsters and like armor and like shields and stuff, and then there's this woman with a sword
with a
going like
belt.
this. Like, what?
I will say, I think it is changing a little bit from what I understand from talking to people who are gamers, but I think it's not necessarily because all these people are having a change of heart. It's because they're starting to see that that's what the public wants. Because now the public is demanding more
capitalism!
And that's where it circles back to what I said. Capitalism.
Capitalism!
They're demanding gay characters, they're demanding more women, so like, you're getting it finally, but it's only because people are demanding it pretty much.
I mean,
which is,
take what you can get.
I guess so, yeah.
Semi-related,
Right?
just something I kind of want to add. Just when you were talking about movies and like the functionality of the women's shirts are really, okay, this is from cracked.com. I'm so sorry that this is where I learned this from. But there's an article about what it's like to be a stunt person for a movie, and women get like the crap beat out of them a lot more than men do, because when you see women running in movies, the likelihood that they're wearing short shorts and a cami is so much higher. So these women have to do these stunts in like no clothes. So they can go away with burns and cuts and like rug burns, and so functionality. Movies are doing it wrong. And you can't win any awards for being a stunt person. That's a different conversation, though.
Yeah, there should be an Oscar for stunt people. That's just absolutely terrible.
Woohoo!
We should make that a hashtag. We're so influential. We can get
Hashtag
people
what?
Hashtag stunt people for the Oscars 2017. Go stunt people, yeah.
Whew. I think that takes up all the characters of the tweet. I don't know.
Oh, man. So you can check us out at soundcloud.com/CYN podcast, or follow us on iTunes at Can You Not Podcast. You can also go to canyouNotPodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us a topic. Amber, you haven't plugged your dad's thing in a while. Do you want to mention that?
Oh, yeah. I was also going to say, if you want to send us a theme do
Oh,
that
yeah.
too, even
'Cause
if
we're
you don't
gonna-
have a topic.
We're gonna try to keep doing that. So even if you have just a general idea, like how
Yeah.
we do video games today.
Yeah, that'd be rad. So my dad's thing, he's doing this bike ride. It's gonna benefit Alzheimer's research. It's coming up pretty quick here. I don't know the dates exactly, but he's gonna ride his bike for a really long time, and he's raising money to support Alzheimer's research, and it's gonna be pretty cool. And the link is in the thing, the comments,
The description.
the description, the thing you're probably looking at right now if you're listening to this. But if you want a better plug, go to an earlier podcast. I can't think of anything.
Like the one from episode 12 is
Yes,
some of your
it's
best
good.
work plugging
Yeah,
that.
mostly give my dad money.
What are we gonna talk about your dad about after this event?
We'll find
happens?
something. We'll figure it out.
He'll have to start fundraising for next year.
Probably. He might do Ragbri next year. Just an even longer ride. I don't think that one benefits anything. Anyway.
What did we learn today?
Well, actually, before we do that, something you forgot. Please give us a rating on iTunes.
Oh,
The more you
yeah.
give us stars, the more we're able to get better opportunities like these sponsorships that we have been getting with Backblaze and also Backblaze and Audible. And we would really appreciate the support. Even if we suck, give us one. The more stars you give us, the more visible we are, and we would really appreciate that.
If you give us a rating, we'll give you a shout out. We'll read it on the podcast, so please do. Yeah. But what did we learn today?
So what I learned is video games have really, really great cognitive enhancement abilities, and that I still will not play video games.
It's your turn, John.
So I'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
depressed forever.
Not to put dead Roger Ebert on blast, but video games are art.
I learned that women can dress normal too. And still be females. It's crazy.
Revolutionary.
I know.
People who say otherwise, can you not?
Can you not?
Fight to the death in stilettos.
That's what I do on my weekends.
Nothing's wrong with me. 2, nothing's wrong with me. 3, nothing's wrong with me. 4, nothing's wrong with me. 1, something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. Wow! Let the bodies hit the